Gerry Murphy is a meteorologist and he presents the weather forecast on television. Gerry is more used to looking at Ireland's countryside from a climate point of view. Now, however, he's stepping out of the studio on a field trip of a different kind.
My connection with Cahersiveen is that I lived and worked in this town for 6 years. I worked with Míchéal and I worked here at Valentia Observatory for 6 years and lived in the town. I have very happy memories of my time both working here and living in the Cahersiveen area. It's a very nice place to live. When I arrived in Cahersiveen for the first week I stayed here, people asked me where was I working, where was I staying, what was my name, and they always asked me, and do you play football? Well, today my journey is going to take me across to Valentia Island. I'm looking forward to exploring the island in more detail. I'm meeting some people along the way to tell me a bit more about it. And then tomorrow I'm heading down further south on the Éire Peninsula, down to Cahersiveen and visiting Daniel O'Connell's house in Derry.
A 5.5-hour drive from Dublin and 90 minutes from Tralee, Cahersiveen is the starting point for Gerry's walk. Cahersiveen is a small but bustling town that sits in one of Kerry's most scenic areas. Gerry Murphy knows this area well and lived here for 6 years. He's doing 2 walks over 2 days. The first starts off at Reynard Point, just 3 kilometres outside Cahersiveen. From here, he goes to Valentia Island. Once on the island, Gerry will walk along the roads of Valencia, ending his walk on the top of Bray Head. The walk covers 15 kilometres in total. There are 2 ways of getting from the mainland to Valentia Island, road or ferry. The ferry is much quicker though, and much more fun.
Well, the ferry is a lovely way to go across to the island. It's very quick for a start. It only costs $1.50 and it takes less than 5 minutes. And in no time, you've travelled from Reynard right across to Knightstown. As well as that, when you're on the ferry, you're out on the open water and it gives you another view of the spectacular scenery of the area.
Valentia Island is 10 kilometres long by 5 kilometres wide, and it's steeped in history. The ferry docks in Knightstown, on the southeast of the island, and on first view, visitors would be forgiven for thinking they'd landed in an English seaside town. And there's a strong English influence here. Cromwell's men pillaged these parts, and the Knights of Kerry had a strong input into the planning of this area. Knightstown is the first purpose-built planned town in Ireland. The Heritage Centre on Valencia is a great first stop point. They know everything there is to know about the island, and they give great advice about where to see and visit. Pam 20man will point Gerry in the right direction.
Where are the best places to go and visit?
Oh, well, there are loads of places you can go and visit, all fantastic. There is the Lighthouse, for instance, known as Cromwell Point, and there is the Slate Quarry, which is still in operation.
Tell me a bit about the Slate Quarry.
Well, the slate has been shipped all over the world. For instance, the Houses of Parliament in London, the floors there are fully slated with Valentia slate. The Opera House in Paris, and Bono had his kitchen done with Valentia slate in more recent times, of course.
Very good.
So the slate is historic and also still going on now today.
And further along the island, where else is good to visit?
Well, there's Bray Head, which is a terrific walk, beautiful and very scenic. In that area, there was the first transatlantic cable.
And that allowed them to send telegrams across the Atlantic. Yes. So Valentia was really at the hub of the genesis of telecommunications.
Of course, yes. And the first message was sent by Queen Victoria to the President of the United States.
The walks of Valencia are a mix of rugged trail and road, so good footwear is a must.
Well, I'm heading down at the moment to the Lighthouse at the end of Valentia Island. You can see it there perched proudly on the rock. Behind it as well, you can see the small island Begnish, which is closely associated with Valentia Island. And behind that on the mainland then, Castle Quinn, and in the distance with the clouds shrouding down over Connacht-na-Dubber just on the far side of Cahersiveen. And looking in this direction, across the sea, you can see the Dingham Peninsula, and then further to the west, all the way out to America. Well, it feels absolutely wonderful to be here. We're down on the northern flank of the island, and you can hear the waves crashing against these beautiful slate rocks. You really get a sense of the wild Atlantic when you're out virtually touching the sea, down by the lighthouse, which is exposed to the western side of the island and out towards the Atlantic. It gives me a combination of a peaceful feeling of being away from all the hustle and bustle of work and city life, and as well as that, a feeling of exhilaration at the same time, basically being out among the wildness of the rocks, the countryside, the sea, and the beautiful weather as well.
This lighthouse is synonymous with Valentia, and it was one of the last lighthouses to have a lighthouse keeper living there. This point of Valentia's coastline also has a darker history that predates the lighthouse and goes all the way back to Cromwellian times. Paul O'Connell gives guided tours of the lighthouse, and he knows its full history.
So Paul, tell me a bit about the history of Valentia Lighthouse.
In 1828, the first Knight of Kerry, Maurice Fitzgerald, petitioned the British Parliament for funds to construct a lighthouse at the entrance of Valentia Harbour. So in 1838, the funds came through, so construction began in the lighthouse. And in 1841, the first light was shown.
I see. And was the lighthouse then manned from then on?
It was manned, yeah. Harry Stanford, now, we would have been the last lighthouse keeper. He lived within the grounds, the house back there, from 1911 to 1947, when the light became fully automatic.
And is it still operational?
It's still fully operational. It's 174 years old, 1841.
Okay, and I've heard a rumour that there was a Cromwellian fort here.
Oh, there was, yeah, a Fleetwood fort, yeah.
What did that consist of?
It consisted of 37 men were based here, and they had cannon based around here to protect the entrance to the harbour from invasion. There's actually a couple of guns still here, a couple of cannon.
And can I see the guns?
Oh, of course you can, yeah.
And his fort was between here and Begnit Island?
Yeah, yeah, to protect the entrance to the harbour.
I see.
Now there's the cannon.
So this is one of the cannons. This is actually one of Oliver Cromwell's cannons.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. And you can see how close you are to Begnit across the way, the narrow passage that they had to go through. So it was fairly easy for them really to set up a good block there. A good block, yes, I see. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing to be in the presence of one of these historical implements.
One of the local men, Míchéal Lyne, is a historian who has many stories about Valentia.
Hello Míchéal, how are you doing?
Hello Gerry, welcome back to South Kerry.
Thank you very much, very nice to be back.
I'm going to take you on a walk up to Bray Tower, but first I want to show you a very historic site here.
So what does this plaque represent?
Yeah, it was 1865 that the first transatlantic cable was laid across the Atlantic from this very site here all the way to St. John's in Newfoundland. 2,500 miles of cable were laid by Cyrus Field. It was the first communication between the old and the new world. And it made a big difference to this island, it made a big difference to the world. Before that, if you want to send a message from Europe to America, it took about 6 weeks. You know, letters were sent by ship and depending on the weather and all that. But once this cable was laid, it was like the internet in modern times.
I see.
It increased communication.
So it revolutionised communication in its day. So how far is up to the top?
Yeah, it's up here now, all the way up to Bray Tower. Just here is the site of the first village in Valentia. It was called Clíneachtartaigh.
When did it exist?
It was in the 1800s, and there were over 100 houses here in the early 1800s. By 1851, it was down to 50 houses, and eventually this village was wiped out in the 1880s with the free immigration.
What did the free immigration consist of?
That was when the government offered £5 and gave you a free trip across the Atlantic to the New World, but you had to leave behind your house and your farm to be divided up among other people.
Valentia is a picturesque island, and Gerry's walk takes him to the historic Bray Head. Bray Head has military significance too. During the Second World War, locals arranged stones in the ground to spell out the word Éire, so that American or German bombers wouldn't mistake Ireland as enemy territory.
So what's this building here?
This is a signal tower that was built in the 1800s. There was a line and built along the west coast when there was a fear of a French invasion.
So when was this, early 1800s?
It was, I think this is dated about 1815. And of course it was manned during both world wars and looking out for U-boats and what have you, you know.
Very good. And it's a substantial building. How many people would have been stationed here?
I suppose there would be 7 or 8 at any one time. It was some employment for the local people, of course. They cycled up here every day.
Very good.
Looking out for U-boats.
Wow, it's really impressive sight.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
The sun gleaming down on the sea is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, so I'm going down now in this time of the evening, yes.
And as well as that, just the whole aspect, the whole scene right the way around. You can feel the vastness really of the Atlantic out ahead of you. Did you tell me a minute ago you could see the Statue of Liberty on a good day?
Yeah, on a clear day now, if you squint your eyes, you'll see the Statue of Liberty right out there now.
It's not clear enough today though, no?
No.
No. It's an absolutely beautiful place. In all the years I've been down in Cahersiveen, I was never actually up here. This is the first time I've been here. And it's really, really, really impressive.